Ladies and gentlemen, Sarah Millican. Our second committee member, David Eagleman, is a scientist at Baylor College of Medicine in Houston, Texas. By day, he investigates the mysteries of brain. By night, he writes radically innovative fiction. His most recent book, Some 40 Tales from the Afterlives, is an international bestseller, which prompted Stephen Fry to say, "You will not read a more dazzling book this year. If you aren't enchanted, I will eat 40 hats." Bah. David, is there an easy way to describe this book?
Some is a book of fiction, and it's 40 mutually exclusive stories that are all set in different possible afterlives. In some of the stories, God is a female, or God's a married couple, or we were actually created by a species of dim-witted creatures, or God is the size of a microbe, and he doesn't know that we exist because we're at the wrong spatial scale. We're just the nutritional substrate, things like that. So it's 40 completely different ideas. And it's not actually about the afterlife. I'm just using that as a playing field against which to explore the joys and complexities of being human.
Have you had any interest from people wanting to start something from it? To become a deacon of your church or, start...
Yes, it does seem that there's a movement that's growing out of it. I was asked on the radio in America, on NPR, whether I was an atheist, and I said, I really don't think we have enough knowledge to commit to strict atheism. And I was asked if I was religious, and I said, we certainly have too much knowledge to commit to any particular religious story. So the person said, well, are you an agnostic? And I said, well, really, agnosticism is often a weak position where you don't know if God exists or doesn't exist. So I said, I'm a possibilian. And the idea with possibilianism is that it's an active exploration of new ideas. And the reason I mentioned the radio interview is because it was a live interview. When I got back to my desk in my laboratory, I already had hundreds of emails from people saying, hey, I think I'm a possibilian also.
Probably by the time, you actually knocked off for the day, the orthodox possibilians had already split from the conservative possibilians.
Right.
I want to go back to the neuroscience. I read somebody said, not only have we not created artificial intelligence yet, we haven't even created artificial stupidity. Have you come across that?
Well, I tell you, when I was growing up, I expected by this time we would have robots everywhere. Yeah. And the best thing we have is the Roomba vacuum cleaner, which means something went really wrong, right? It turns out artificial intelligence was a much harder problem than anybody expected, and they haven't cracked it yet.
Has it occurred to you, though, that may be what the Roomba vacuum cleaners want us to think?
I know that you think that neuroscience is going to throw up some sort of amazing possibilities. What kind of weirdness do you think we can expect coming out of that discipline?
Oh, well, I think in probably the not-too-distant future, we'll start plugging information straight into the cortex, and you'll be able to experience new sorts of sensations, like plugging in stock market data or weather data. That's probably, 50 years off. And then maybe 100 years off, we will be able to make a Xerox copy of the brain and download it into a computer, and then you can live forever. Now, this rests on some assumptions. The assumption is that the brain is made up of physical pieces and parts. The reason that's probably a pretty good assumption is because we know when you damage the brain, even in small ways, that completely changes who you are. So presumably, if we can make a copy and recreate all of the algorithms in the brain in zeros and ones in silica, that would be you.
Food for thought. David Eagleman, ladies and gentlemen.